Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or you're listening on the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which you can find wherever fine streaming apps are given away because they are free. Free to download, free to use, and sponsored by Diversus Health. Mental health and well-being for all. It will be a veritable cornucopia of sports topics over the course of the program, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-247-1313. You could call or text into the show. If you are watching the live stream of the show anywhere you scroll, which I highly recommend, you could drop a comment right there. We'll get into the local stuff as we move through, because a couple of coaches in the state of Colorado are staying, one longer term than the other, at least as of right now. But I can't start the show anywhere else but the greatest comeback period ever, or as many are calling it, the dumbest game period ever. 29 points down were the New York Knicks. And all this stuff I said about how I hated the way that they reacted to losing in Game 3, I was like, here it all is. I didn't think that the Knicks would lose last night. I'm just saying I didn't like the way that they responded. Mike Brown's going after the officials. Knicks fans are wanting Victor Wembanyama thrown into prison. There are Knicks fans on the streets acting like complete idiots. I didn't like all of it. It had the air of a team and a fan base. And then you have the James Dolan stuff, fighting with the mayor. Like, it was just the worst possible reaction from all parties involved that you could possibly get when the Knicks were still in a great spot. They're up 2-1 in the series, and everybody is like melting down. So when I watched the first half, I was like, here it is. The Knicks are actually melting down. But no, on this night, it would be the Spurs who melted down. But and look, I had the same moment of realization like everybody did. In fact, I saw a quote from John Tortorella, the Vegas Golden Knights coach. He stayed up to watch the game last night and said when they cut it to 15, meaning the Knicks, what was the quote? Quote, "You knew something stupid was going to happen." Couldn't have said it better myself, Torts. But I tell you the moment, and you probably had the same thought I did when it happened. 53 seconds left in the third quarter. Mitchell Robinson kicks it into the corner for OG Anunoby for a three, which cut it to 90-75. And at that point, like Torts, I thought something stupid is going to happen. Now, something stupid may not necessarily be the Knicks coming all the way back and winning. May not be OG Anunoby with a tip-in with a couple seconds left. I still didn't fully believe that the New York Knicks were going to come back and win, but I had the same reaction everyone had. We got a game here. This fourth quarter is going to be interesting. But the moment I knew that the Spurs were going to lose the game was the De'Aaron Fox play. When De'Aaron Fox went up for that layup and got blocked by OG Anunoby, I'm like, the Knicks are winning this game. How do you not dribble that ball out and force the Knicks to foul you? For the most veteran player on this Spurs team to do that in that moment was completely egregious, and it just showed how the moment got too big for everyone up and down the Spurs roster. Here was De'Aaron Fox on why he went up for a layup.
Haven't scored. Try to get a layup, get up three. Make them force them to need a three, and it can be a good block.
It's not a good reason. You haven't scored in the game, not a good reason. Because you would give yourself many more opportunities to score in future games. Unconscionable. But that's when I knew that the Knicks were going to win that game. But that's the realization. The game was lost before that. Right? We can't be so beholden to the way the game ends and say, that's everything. This team was up by 29 points. There were many off-ramps when New York started to come back that the Spurs could have taken and made it not come down to that. And here's Mitch Johnson, the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs, talking about why his team collapsed.
We got away from what got us the 76 points in the first half, just in terms of putting pressure on the rim, rolling after screens, running, continuing to find the paint, whether it's for ourselves or for a teammate. We got on our heels and, miss some shots, and then, you don't get as many free throws and high percentage looks when you play on your heels like that.
Can I first say how brutal that is? You know what it reminded me of? Remember Cam Newton after Super Bowl 50 when he ended up walking out of his post-game interview because of the celebration that was going on? This is a giant arena in New York City. Can we not find a different room for Mitch Johnson to go into? Do we have to have the Knicks celebration going on right outside and overwhelming Mitch Johnson while he's trying to discuss the biggest collapse in the history of basketball? Like, I felt genuinely terrible for the guy. That was all going on while he's trying to do that. It would make, and I know Cam Newton got a lot of crap that day when he walked out, but part of me understood it. Like, you have the biggest loss of your life, and it's embarrassing. And you have, I assume it's Mariska Hargitay that was outside. She was a crazy during that game. Just as a side from what we're talking about, I think it was her and Taylor Swift that were outside of the room that Mitch Johnson was speaking in. Just brutal to have him talking about what happened to the Spurs with that going on. Can we not find a different room? But at any rate, that's exactly what happened. And it's one of my biggest pet peeves about the game of basketball. And it applies to almost every single team in the league. There is never any plan B here. Nobody ever has a plan B. No one is able to pivot, it seems like, to a different thing. I know that the Spurs got out to their big lead because of the three-pointers they were shooting, but to Mitch Johnson's point, the looks were good because the Spurs came out and did exactly what I have been saying they need to continue to do. And Mitch Johnson has been saying it. You have this 7'4" guy, and you got these guards that are able to get to the rim. Do that. Play near the rim. And then it opens up everything else. But the Spurs hit a ton of threes, and I get it. You come out in the second half, you're feeling great about yourself. You don't want to, I'm not saying at the beginning of the third quarter the Spurs go into like prevent offense and trying to use the entire shot clock. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying after the first 3 or 4 3-pointers that you shoot or miss, you go, okay, we got to change it up here. We don't have it. And the players never realize that. And here's where Mitch Johnson deserves some of the blame here. What did the Knicks go on, a 20-4 run before he called the timeout? You have this young team in San Antonio that you've seen as this series has gone on, has been prone to these lulls where they kind of lose their mind a little bit, and you don't call a timeout till New York makes a 20-4 run? It just, last night, and it's been a story in this series, it's just that last night was, in many ways, the culmination of all of this, but certainly the most extreme example of this. But you've seen throughout the series, this San Antonio youth that I thought would never show itself. I thought it would all throughout the season, early in the playoffs, and then it didn't, and this team looked like they were playing beyond their years. And then they go up against OKC, and it's surely a previous champion is going to show San Antonio they're not ready for this. And then they won the series. And to be quite honest, I just didn't think that the Knicks were going to be that team. But they absolutely are. And it's the mindset that they have that is a perfect counter, if you will, to San Antonio's youth and experience and propensity in this series to get kind of caught up in the moment. Here's Jalen Brunson on that mentality.
We need to chip away. Now we need to hit singles, get on base, and make plays from there. And I feel like we did that tonight, and we found a way to really just continue to do the things that have helped us get to this point.
Yeah, it's been who they are. And I'm sitting here watching the Rockies and the Cubs right now in studio. Yeah, just put the ball in play. Make the defense make a play. Get guys on base. Make things uncomfortable. That's how New York has played. And just because a lot of their guys haven't won a championship, I didn't think that they would be the team after the Spurs slayed the dragon that is OKC, that it was going to be New York, but it absolutely has been. And it's just this team's grit, their resiliency, and their willingness to just continue to chip away, what Jalen Brunson said. The Spurs were looking to land the death blow over and over and over again. And if you hit one of them, then it's great, right? But if you don't, and the Spurs repeatedly didn't, the Knicks have no reason to go away from how they've played. And then you have basically, not even basically, tell me a sequence in New York basketball history that's better than the one that OG Anunoby had. I can't think of another moment in Knicks history, another sequence in Knicks history that's better than that one. It's gonna go down in both Knicks and NBA history as the greatest sequence of events in the history of that franchise, as proud a franchise as the Knicks are. Yes, it was, a brain cramp at best for De'Aaron Fox to go up for that layup, but let's give credit to OG Anunoby. It's a perfect encapsulation of this series. OG is hustling back like he's LeBron getting ready for a chase down block. OG Anunoby had every intention of blocking De'Aaron Fox's shot. I don't think De'Aaron Fox was aware of his surroundings or thought that OG Anunoby would be crashing that hard. And then to come back and get that tip in at the end of the game. Here's ABC's call of it.
Brunson gets it, fires up a three. Shot no good. The tip, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. With 1.2 remaining. Knicks take the lead. OG Anunoby, and it's 107-106.
But couldn't you see that coming from a mile away? Like the play was developing in slow motion, it seemed. And then you're looking over and you're like, nobody's picking up Anunoby. They didn't guard the inbounds pass. And he comes in onto the court after he passes it in. Nobody's guarding him. And then he kind of waves his hands. It's like I thought at the moment he's going to be open for a three. Jalen Brunson ends up taking it, and OG Anunoby, unfettered, goes right to the rim. I mean, it was like the end of any basketball movie. Everything slows down and there's one guy kind of rising above everybody else as the time is going down, pan to the clock, 3, 2, and then the shot, just unbelievable. Just unbelievable. And if you're a Knicks fan, that's the greatest moment in the history of the franchise. And if you're the Spurs, you have a new number one. It was the Ray Allen three in Game 6 of the finals. That was it until last night. It was the highest point in Knicks basketball history, the lowest point in San Antonio basketball history, and people are talking about 28-3. Nothing's ever going to top 28-3. Sorry, it's just not. Like how iconic that is because of this scoreline. We all know what 28-3 means. What's going to be the score for this one? We're not 28-3 is going to stand alone. And part of the reason too is in the Super Bowl, it was the Super Bowl. It was the game. It decided it. The Patriots hoisted the trophy after that. That didn't happen last night. But let me assure you, the NBA Finals came to an end last night. It is not, if is off the table. New York is winning. It's just, are they going to waste no time and do it in San Antonio, or are we going to get another, scene like it was last night at Madison Square Garden? But the NBA Finals are effectively over. The Spurs are not coming back from that to win the series. I think the better question is if they're even going to be able to bounce back to extend this series. But one of those like quintessential, this is why we watch sports. Nights like last night are the answer to when your buddy or your significant other or your kids go, look at the score. And my son did this to me multiple times last night. Why are you still watching this game? That's why, son. What OG Anunoby did. That's why. Unbelievable. But you knew when it was 90-75, you're like, something's happening. 719-24-7-1313. Take your thoughts on all of what that was last night. Now we'll get into the local news of the day. Let's start with the coach that was in question of whether he was going to return. Joe Sakic met with the media today. What is the fate of Jared Bednar, and where do the Avs go after being swept out of the Western Conference Finals? You'll hear from the new old GM next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. He's got ties. He's got socks. Give him a gift that really rocks. Head to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com to enter a national contest for a chance at $5,000 for your top pop, sponsored locally by Papa Murphy's Pizza. We make it, you bake it. At long last, Joe Sakic, who has taken back over general managing duties with the Colorado Avalanche with the departure of Chris McFarland. He spoke more than a week after the Colorado Avalanche were swept by the Vegas Golden Knights, and the first thought in most people's minds when Joe Sakic stepped up to the mic was, what is the fate of Jared Bednar? Well, Jared Bednar and his coaches are not going anywhere. Here's Joe Sakic as to why.
It's got the confidence from the players. We reflect exit meetings. It's clear from everybody, from players, the staff, that he's the right guy. They respect him. They love playing for him, and that's a big thing. And when we look at it for this group, he's the best coach.
And all along, I have said the thing that the Colorado Avalanche need to figure out is not whether Jared Bednar is the best possible coach that they can get. Because you could argue, yes. Not many guys on the unemployment line have a Stanley Cup ring. And even then, you could debate whether Jared Bednar is actually better. For me, the word has always been right. Is he the right guy for right now? And the players can tell you. And if the players say he's still our guy and we love playing for him and we want to play for him, then that should go a long way. I think about period 2 of game 2 and I go, or period 2 of game 2, yeah. And I go, are they responding to him? And I think that was probably part of the conversation that Joe Sakic had with him. Or at least he asked some questions to surmise whether the message was still getting through, and he's going off of the players. And I think that's important in today's day and age. So the players wanted Jared Bednar to remain, and Jared Bednar will remain. It was always going to be, a tough kind of thread in the needle here to be able to get the right guy for this job. All I wanted was the Avalanche to consider it. I thought it was a question, and I still do. Just because the players say yes and Joe Sakic says yes does not necessarily mean it's going to prove out that way throughout next season. And one thing that I think has changed from last year, because I thought Jared Bednar was going to be on a seat that was rising in temperature after losing to Dallas. What happened this year with the team that really from the outset established themselves as the clear number 1 team in the league, franchise record for points, won the President's Trophy, all of that kind of stuff. And it kind of distracted from the feeling that was around, because it looked like the Avalanche were better. Well, now that doesn't apply this year. If the Avalanche come out and start 20-2, I'm sorry, it's not going to be all as well and everything is right and Jared Bednar is the right guy and let's plan the parade now. It's not going to be. There's nowhere else that the Avalanche can go but down or, let's say, maintain. But it's not going to sell you. This year sold you a little bit because it was better than it was a year before. I don't see how the Avalanche next season for 82 games can be better than what they were through 82 games of this year. So there will be no distraction. It will be, all this is great, and we'll formulate our opinions about how more viable a contender the Colorado Avalanche are as the season goes along. And there's a couple ways I'll get into here, and Joe Sakic got into them, that I think will give you an indication that maybe next year's going to finish differently. But just winning and Nathan McKinnon playing like an MVP and Cale Makar playing like the best defenseman in the world and all of that kind of stuff, it's not going to be enough this year. Because you'll still have in the back of your head, yeah, we saw this last year. They won the President's Trophy. They won the toughest division in hockey. They look like a wagon. And it all came crashing down. So what is there during the regular season to say that it's going to be different? And I'll give you the two things. One is, and it speaks to the decision to retain the coaching staff. You fired Ray Bennett after the Dallas series to try and fix your power play. You brought in Dave Haxtell. If you take the season in its entirety, it was largely bad with a couple of outlier stretches. Now the power play has to be consistently solid for the Colorado Avalanche. Doesn't have to be top of the league, although it's still one of the great mysteries of the universe that the Colorado Avalanche, with all of their talent, can't have one of the best power plays in the league. And maybe they can. Maybe that's how far they have underachieved in that aspect. But in terms of positive signs next year that the Avalanche can finish the job, one is going to be the power play is not at the bottom of the league for most of the season. And if Dave Haxtell is going to be the guy that remains, he's going to be under just as much pressure as Jared Bednar, which if Jared Bednar gets fired, then I guess Dave Haxtell won't be far behind. But a lot of people are going to look at Dave Haxtell. And here's Joe Sakic on the power play and why he thinks it will be improved.
Once we got Naz and filled that role on the other side, it was much better after the trade deadline. I thought the power play was pretty good in the first two rounds, and like the rest, like our entire game, it was quiet against Vegas, but that was more of a entire unit, whether it was PK, 5-on-5 and power play. We didn't get the job done in that last week.
And it is going to be interesting to see because Joe Sakic is framing it in a different way. I look at the power play struggles against Vegas and say, for the vast majority of the year, this is what I saw. So it's more in line with what most of the season was. Joe Sakic is saying the power play got dragged down with everything else. That what you saw against LA and Minnesota, especially Minnesota, was more what you can expect moving forward from the Avalanche power play. And it'll be interesting to see whether that's true or not. Because I could see it. I could see what Joe Sakic is saying. I'm just looking at the totality of the season. Even they dipped a little bit towards the end of the year. But the most powerful argument he makes is not the acquisition of Nazem Kadri. Because before Naz, after Naz, different, right? Looked different. The results were different. And it leads into one of the more interesting things that Joe Sakic said today. It was overall very status quo, very what you would expect. Josh Kroenke joined him at the last minute, so that made people kind of perk up and go, what is this about? And it turned out to be nothing. Most of the questions went to Joe Sakic because we know that, let's just say that the Avalanche don't get the, extra attention that some of the other franchises in the Kroenke Sports Empire do. And maybe that was Josh's way of saying, like, kind of going against that. No, I'm going to be here for the end of season press conference. But the most interesting thing that Joe Sakic said about, and it was in the vein of how this team improves and everything about, moving forward. But this is what Joe Sakic said about what the Avalanche have already done.
We just didn't put it together in a stretch of 4 games. And we could panic and try and blow everything up and start all over. But this team, what they've done over the course of the year was pretty remarkable. Now, we want to give them an opportunity to try and do it again. I mean, like I said, the last 2 trade deadlines were meant for not just that year. It was to try and compete for a few years with this group and try and bring home a Stanley Cup, and that's the goal.
That last part there, the last 2 trade deadlines, because we went through this last year, right? They completely remade the goaltending room. They make the Mikko Rantanen trade, get Natchez out of that, end up adding Brock Nelson a little bit later. And the feeling was it's not just for this year, but it's for the next year. Well, a lot of good that did, right? Brock Nelson and Marty Natchez were 2 of the more disappointing Avs players in that Vegas series. But the way that Joe Sakic is framing the Nazem Kadri trade, because at the time, since they already picked up Nick Waugh, it was like this kind of tongue-in-cheek way of looking at it, like they got Nazem Kadri because they felt like it, because they could. Like the move was getting Nick Waugh. We know they were trying to get Nazem Kadri back, but they got Nick Waugh. It felt like a pivot. Okay, they're going to get this guy instead. And then they still circled back with Calgary and ended up with Nazem Kadri. Well, that wasn't just because the Avs could, just because Calgary finally relented. When I listen to Joe Sakic, what I am hearing is this guy is integral in what we're trying to do. This is an impact move. This isn't the Broncos bringing back Von Miller. This isn't for vibes. This isn't for nostalgia. We need this guy. And the power play is one of those spots. So I know Kadri has, familiarity and experience with some of these guys, but okay, let's see how this Kadri trade ages over a year. And I don't think it ages poorly. I think he's going to be a good contributor, but the difference maker that he was brought in to be. We saw it a little bit. We saw it initially. I don't know that we saw it by the end. Now we get a full season. So I thought that was the most interesting thing that Joe Sakic said. Maybe the soundbite of the press conference was this one regarding is getting Cale Makar extended important to you?
Pretty big. I mean, listen, Cale's going to finish his career here. We're already talked to his agent, so we're confident that something's going to get worked out at some point. I mean, he's got another year, but this summer we expect to have him signed.
And if you didn't already understand Cale Makar's importance to this team, the Vegas series should make it clear to everybody. Still don't think we have found out what else is ailing Cale Makar. I'm still waiting. Like, I don't know why I'm waiting. Like, it's almost like Christmas morning, but it's like terrible news that I'm going to get all of these injuries that the Avalanche are suffering from. But I'm waiting because we keep getting told that Cale Makar has something else besides the shoulder. But setting that aside, you saw with a limited Cale Makar the dysfunction that went on through the Colorado Avalanche team. Power play, again, bring it back to that. Power play most notably. They just don't function the same way. So I had little doubt that Cale Makar was going to remain an Av for a very long time, but in case there was any, maybe we'll try to save $1 million or $2 million from Joe Sakic. Not now. You gotta pay him all. Pay it all to him. And still under the age of 30 for a team that, it was pointed out today, is aging a bit. They're not old. But Cale Makar, like, he's still on the right side of 30. You got to lock this guy up. And it's probably going to be about $20 million a year. We'll have more from Joe Sakic's press conference coming up later. In the meantime, the biggest takeaway, Jared Bednar coming back to coach the Colorado Avalanche. An extension should be hammered out this summer. As I'm listening to Joe Sakic today, your thoughts on that? 719-247-1313. World Cup kicking off earlier this afternoon. Not much of a contest. Didn't expect it to be between Mexico and South Africa. Mexico jumped on them early, thought they could have easily made it 2-3-0 by halftime. They didn't, but then South Africa went down to 10 men, and then it was a wrap from there. 2-0 ends up being the final. Later tonight in Guadalajara, as that game was played in Mexico City, in Guadalajara, it will be Czechia and South Korea. Perhaps the Avalanche can get some more little tidbits about the power play by watching Czechia's soccer team play, because apparently watching Czechia's hockey team helped them out a little bit after the All-Star break this year. See, that's the kind of joke that you get on this kind of show. It's not really funny, but it shows that I can blend in a lot of different things in the sports world. So Czechia and South Korea tonight, nice little warm up, and then tomorrow it gets going in earnest as far as we are concerned, because the U.S. will play tomorrow night, and we'll get more into that, the U.S.'s chances, where I think they're going to end up, and all of that kind of stuff tomorrow. But you can get a couple matches today if you want it. The other one other World Cup note, very happy to see this come down today. Garvin Matusala of the Colorado Springs Switchbacks has been a late add to the Haiti roster for the World Cup. When Duke LaCroix was selected, I thought it was very weird that Garvin was not also selected. Alan McCann, the head coach of the Switchbacks, was, to say disappointed would be an understatement. Thought that was the wrong decision, but it's the way Haiti went. And now Garvin's going to join Duke with the Haitian national team. So, yes, it does put the Switchbacks down another player for a couple of weeks, but well-deserved. And there's so many teams, more teams in the World Cup than there have ever been. I don't know that you can fully enjoy the biggest sporting event in the world if you don't at least have a side interest. Not saying that you have to, we're Team USA all the way, and then when Team USA falters, then we're going to call for every player and Pochettino to be sent to the moon. But you got to have some side interests in this World Cup. The idea that we could get Messi and Ronaldo in the knockout stage is a reason to tune in, and something that I am very much hoping for. But with a couple of Switchbacks players on Haiti, and they're a remarkable story, Haiti, because of the unrest going on in their country. They didn't play a single World Cup qualifier at home. Not one. They had to be on the road for all of it. It's been forever since they've gotten in. So and shouts CONCACAF. It's great. It's a great story. They have arguably the toughest group. I mean, they get going on Saturday with Scotland, and that's probably the weakest team they have in the group. Morocco has been a rising power in soccer. The Olympics and some of when these guys that are playing for Morocco now were younger, they were winning all of these tournaments. So now they're on the World Cup stage. They're going to be really good. Brazil's in that group. It's going to be tough for Haiti to get out, but there's a rooting interest apart from the Stars and Stripes throughout this tournament if you want to do that. Coincidentally, the Haiti-Scotland match is going to be taking place at the very same time that the Switchbacks are hosting Sacramento Republic on Saturday. So can't do play-by-play of both. One would get me in a lot of trouble. But trust me, Roland and I will definitely keep you updated on how Haiti is doing against Scotland and keep tabs on a couple of members of the Switchbacks. So congratulations to Garvin. Great video put out by the Switchbacks this afternoon with the team celebrating with him as he will travel now to where are they playing? This thing is played so many places. Boston, where are they going to be at? Saturday, yes, Boston. That's where they'll be playing on. Oh no, Saturday. I have like I tried to print out the entire schedule and it's like in calendar form and it's very difficult for me to read. Haiti and Scotland, Saturday night, 7:00 from Boston, and same time the Switchbacks are going to be playing Sacramento Republic. So there's your update on what's going on as the World Cup getting underway with Mexico beating 10-man South Africa 2-0, Czechia, South Korea tonight, and then things really get going with all due respect, although I would like to see Mexico advance because I would like the U.S. and Mexico to meet each other and the U.S. to beat them. So it'd be nice if one of the U.S.'s rivals got out of their group, but Mexico got the 2-0 win. Watching it, the Rockies just aren't going to do it, are they? They've swept teams before, but every time that I am locked into the Rockies, they win the last 2 games of this Cubs series. First time they've won a series against the Cubs in 2 years. And even Michael Lorenzen, of all people, pitches well last night. They win on a walk-off. Today, they come back, chance to sweep, and they're down 9-2 as Tovar strikes out 1 out in the bottom of the 9th. Not going to get a lot of sweeps this year, I don't think, from the 2026 Colorado Rockies. But I did love something that Warren Schaefer said. I don't know if he's ultimately going to get this team right, but the fact that before the series started, he acknowledged how annoying it is to see a sea of blue down the third baseline with all the Cubs fans at Coors Field, and acknowledged that the reason why they're all there is because the Rockies stink. And so why not sell your tickets to Cubs fans? But for him to acknowledge how they want to change that in the culture at Coors Field like that. More after this. Welcome in. Glad to have you. Shouts to those of you watching the show. Anywhere you scroll, you can do so as long as you follow Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, or me. I am at Gingerly Tweets on X and at Gingerwatch on Twitter. And while you are there, you can always drop a comment, join the conversation, because this is an interactive experience. If you are listening to the show on either Extra Sports 1300 or KVOR, feel free to call or text in at 719-247-1313. I will have your chance to win tickets to see PBR Space Cowboys at Falcon Stadium on June 20th. That would include Elite Team Bull Riding and a concert from Tim McGraw, as well as Chris Jansen. So that's coming up here, and you want that number handy if you want to win those tickets. So we know that Jared Bednar is staying. Joe Sakic made that clear in his press conference today, but we don't know how long because they haven't worked out an extension, and for right now, Jared Bednar is entering a lame duck year. That will not be the case for Sean Payton, although it wasn't on the table. He had 2 years left on his deal, but today the Broncos ripped that up and gave him a fresh 5-year deal. So the math on this at Sean Payton's age is kind of important. This is not 2 years and then 5. It's a new 5-year contract. So that's how long Sean Payton is tied to the Denver Broncos. And here's Sean Payton on being happy that he is getting a new 5-year contract.
I've been spoiled because I had a real good experience in New Orleans with ownership and Mickey, and to go 2 for 2 with that is hard in our league. And so, I'm thankful they want me back, and we'll do everything we can to continue to keep winning.
And now you get everybody aligned and on the same timeline. And that's so important in sports, right? To have everybody on the same timeline, then everybody, some of the agendas go away because nobody's trying to earn their next contract. Sean Payton and George Payton are locked in with the Denver Broncos for the same amount of time. And I think that was a big reason why Greg Penner decided to do this, is to get them together on the same timeline to build the Denver Broncos and do what Sean Payton just said, which was continue to win. And look, you're not going to hear any argument from me that Sean Payton should get a new contract. Okay, we could talk about the future, and we will momentarily, but you got to look at what Sean Payton has done. It's quite remarkable. Because the Broncos, they were never the worst team in the league. Right? Under Vance Joseph, under Vic Fangio, Nathaniel Hackett, they were never the worst. Okay, but they were something that might be worse than that. They were irrelevant. And they were in that mushy middle where they weren't getting a chance to draft a franchise quarterback or a franchise-altering player at another position, but they weren't serious at all when it came to being playoff contenders, let alone Super Bowl contenders. They were in the worst spot that you can be in sports. And the hope surrounding this franchise was not very high. And Sean Payton comes in, and initially it's, well, can he rehabilitate Russell Wilson? And Sean Payton's like, nah, I don't really want to do that. I don't want him to be my quarterback. And in doing it, he had to eat the biggest dead cap hit in the history of the sport, and to basically hang a big fat L outside of Broncos headquarters, admitting they got it completely wrong, which is not incorrect. They did. But basically, Sean Payton going, I think there are coaches that would say, well, I got to make it work with this guy. Right? He's the franchise quarterback. He's being paid a ton of money. The franchise gave up a lot to get him. I got to stick it out. I got to try and make it work. And I don't know if it was discussed beforehand, but I'm sure it was discussed early on that Sean Payton went to Greg Penner and was like, if this dude's not my guy, I'm getting rid of him. And he was allowed to do that. He was given the license from management to do that. A lot of management would not allow. George Payton and a lot of GMs would not allow for a coach to come in and say that and make him try to make it work. They gave him the license to say, okay, he's not your guy, let him go. And the way that George Payton and with Sean Payton's help, navigated the salary cap by prioritizing, by being very fiscally responsible, but also looking for a specific type of player rather than just taking any money that they did have and just spending it on the best player that they could possibly find. They built up the culture. And then obviously Sean Payton took a swing on Bo Nix, and it was a swing. Now, you could say it's one that the Broncos had to make because they were devoid of a decent quarterback for a very long time, and the fact they had no second-round pick. I don't know if they would have truly waited around till the second round to get one of these guys. So you could say it's a swing they had to make, but it was not met with celebration initially. And I think you could say Bo Nix already has shown more as a quarterback than maybe what was expected when he was drafted. And this team gets to an AFC championship. You could argue with a healthy Bo Nix, they would have made it to the Super Bowl in a much faster timeline than anyone could have expected when Sean Payton took over. So he absolutely deserves this new contract, and he has completely transformed the Denver Broncos organization to not only a respectable franchise, but a contender. Now, looking forward to the next 5 years, this is where things get really interesting. Because now the expectations are sky high. And it's always a discussion when these extensions or new contracts get handed out. What are you rewarding? Or what are you doing with this? Are you rewarding what has happened and say, because this person did this, they deserve it? Or are you betting on what they're going to do? And the statement that Greg Penner read was very what he did, everything that I just talked about, with only a little bit of a nod to what the Broncos could accomplish in the next 5 years with Sean Payton. But here's where things get difficult for Sean Payton. This team can know, and now there's kind of the ceiling's right there. Now, maybe it's one more game, maybe it's winning that next game, but these leaps and bounds that so many people are pointing out on social media about Sean Payton, that's coming to an end. It's kind of like I was talking about the Colorado Avalanche earlier, and how a President's Trophy Central Division winning regular season is not going to be enough for Avalanche fans. Or at least they're not going to put the same value into it because they saw it already. Winning 13 games, winning the division, you saw that. You saw that last year. That's not the goal anymore. So you're not going to see the Broncos improve and win. One of the safest bets I think you can make for next season is that the Broncos are not going to win as many games as they did a year ago. Now, that doesn't mean they can't win the division. That doesn't mean their playoff success is not available to them. But this rocket ship that the Broncos are going to be on, well, that's over now. Now it's these the incremental. Can you get one step, just one? And a lot of what you see during the regular season is going to be nice, but there's a new end destination. And it's after the 17-game regular season. It's after the wild card round. It's getting back to an AFC championship and now winning it. And I think this Broncos season is going to be very similar to the Avalanche and the Nuggets, in that you have teams that all make significant moves, right? The Avs have made a number of significant moves dating back to last year's Natchez and Nelson, and now they brought in Nazem Kadri, and they make these big moves. And they have a great season. They get far, not far enough. Denver Nuggets, what do they need? They need depth. They make a significant move. Moving on from Michael Porter, they bring in Cam Johnson. It opens up money to bring it back Bruce Brown, They bring in Tim Hardaway, Jonas Valanciunas, and now the Nuggets have what you need to win an NBA title. And they make those moves, and for a long time this season, it looked like it was better. It looked like they had what they needed, and then the rubber met the road, and maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't enough. Maybe it wasn't the right guys. And I'm looking at the Denver Broncos with the addition of Jalen Waddle. And I fully expect, set aside how many wins the Denver Broncos have, but just the numbers that they're able to put up, the way they're going to look on Sundays, I think for most of the season it's going to look better. How could it not with Jalen Waddle? Unless Jalen Waddle and Bo Nix just for some reason are not compatible at all, and I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be. They're going to look better. They're going to put up bigger numbers, and they're going to make you feel like this is a better team than the one that lost in the AFC Championship. But don't forget, and I think this is what happened with the Avalanche and the Nuggets. You get so focused on your team, as is to be expected, and maybe you don't see what's going on elsewhere. Right? I don't know that many people predicted the Vegas would become what they became. I don't think many people predicted that we would have an NBA Finals with the San Antonio Spurs in it. Throughout the regular season, it looked like the Nuggets had gotten over their issues with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Same thing with the Broncos. They, on paper, are better. And I think throughout the season, they're going to look like they're a better team than they were a year ago. But elsewhere, I think Buffalo may be right to take back over that division. Baltimore makes, I think, a necessary change, and I think they're going to be better. Joe Burrow's healthy again. The Kansas City Chiefs getting Kenneth Walker, and now Patrick Mahomes coming back off of the injury. There are a lot of these teams elsewhere inside the AFC. I'm not guaranteeing all of them are going to be back to what they were, but only takes one. Right? That's all it took this year. All it took was the New England Patriots. And that was it for the Broncos season. And we're talking about Cincinnati, Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore. Maybe you don't put stock in multiple teams in that group. But I think that they're all primed given how down they were last year. And Buffalo, not as much as the others, obviously. Still made the playoffs and all that. But Baltimore, Cincinnati, Kansas City were all down in a big way this year. I don't think all three are going to stay at the same level. So the Broncos on paper might be better, and it might look better on Sundays, but there are also teams in the AFC that are going to get better. And I think that this Broncos season ultimately ends in much the same fashion as the Avalanche and the Denver Nuggets, that you think, okay, it's got to be them. Maybe there's one other team, but really it's them. And then all of a sudden it's over, and maybe you didn't expect it to be over when it's over, and then things get a little uncomfortable. Then the honeymoon period ends. And now Bo Nix is entering a contract negotiation for his extension. Now there's not these leaps and bounds improvements in terms of the win total. That's just, and I don't think, I don't think that the window is closed for the Avalanche. Kind of think it is for the Denver Nuggets. I don't know that the first year of Jalen Waddle in Denver is their last chance to compete for a Super Bowl. I don't think that at all. I think that the Broncos are going to be around for the next few years. But what happens when the arrow's not pointing up anymore? How are things going to change around the Denver Broncos? We got a long time before we see any of this, but that's kind of where I'm at with the Denver Broncos. And then, so we're talking, and then the next year it's the bouncing back. What are you doing about it to get back to where you were? And then that's the original 2 years Sean Payton had left on his deal. And then it's either maintaining what they have or trying to build it back up, depending on how that goes. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on Sean Payton getting a new 5-year contract. Not a 5-year extension. It's only essentially a 3-year extension. But a brand new 5-year deal to remain the head coach of the Denver Broncos, same as his buddy, George Payton. 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports and a chance for you to win tickets to see Tim McGraw at Falcon Stadium next. PBR Space Cowboys, presented by the U.S. Space Force, will bring elite team bull riding and a live concert by Grammy award-winning superstar Tim McGraw to Falcon Stadium on June 20th, 9 days from now. If you'd like to go, I have 4 tickets, a 4-pack of tickets to go to PBR Space Cowboys. Be the 13th texter to text Cowboy or Cowboys. I'll take the plural. That's fine. Never know what autocorrect is going to come up with. Text Cowboys and your name to 719-247-1313. And the 13th texter will get a 4-pack of tickets to PBR Space Cowboys June 20th at Falcon Stadium. So the question after the whatever that was last night at Madison Square Garden pandemonium is whether this thing is over. Now, as far as this series being over, yes, the New York Knicks are going to be NBA champions. The question is when. Are they going to get it done down in San Antonio? Or is it going to be another garden party, as it were, with Taylor and Adam Sandler and Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld and Mariska Hargitay and Chalamet and Kylie Jenner? Stars were out. And can I just say this? The celebrities that are Knick fans are true fans. They really are. Spike Lee, all of them. They love the New York Knicks. It is a little bit about being seen where, that's a little bit of the world of being a celebrity, is being seen at these big sporting events. But all those celebrities, I got to catch up on the lore of Taylor Swift being a Knicks fan. Was not aware of this. And wasn't she rooting for Cleveland when she went to the game in Cleveland with Travis Kelce? Anyway, I saw what happened to Monica McNutt today, the Knicks color analyst on the radio. I'm not going to I just don't know. I didn't know that Taylor Swift was a Knicks fan. But Seinfeld and Larry David, Chris Rock, Tracy Morgan, all of them, diehard Knicks fans. Here's the one thing I will say. They use their celebrity to step beyond the line. Like, they shouldn't be allowed to storm the court like they're at Cameron Indoor and Duke just beat North Carolina. Like, you can't go on the court, and they're just being allowed to roam. Mariska Hargitay, if you don't know her, she's a star of one of the Law and Orders. There's like 80 of them now. She runs up onto the court and gives OG Anunoby a hug. I don't have a huge problem with the celebrities being able to sit. I have a problem with the 300 level being 10 grand a ticket. But look, they have the money. Ben Stiller, all these people, they're real fans. You can't run on the court. Come on now. But I get the emotion because they are diehard Knicks fans. So that's good. And they are a better representation of Knicks fans than the people outside that are assaulting people for having the audacity to wear Spurs gear. And more of that crap happened last night. On a serious note, that's absolute garbage. And I love the city of New York. My family is from New York. I love New York. But that is awful. and you're just perpetuating negativity that people have about that city that they shouldn't. But it's hard when you're doing stupid stuff like that. So I'd much rather, by comparison, have Mariska Hargitay storming the court than what's going on in the streets of New York with some of these Knicks fans. I can at least say that. But here's the thing. I know I've been in this game long enough to know what's going to happen. So we have 2 days, right? So today is for just trying to comprehend what we watched last night. And it's trashing the Spurs and it's lifting up OG Anunoby and the New York Knicks, right? That's what today is. Well, then we're going to have this dead day tomorrow. Okay, where we're going to start to turn our attention to game 5. And I've already seen it. You're going to have some people go, there's a void here. Everyone is saying that the Knicks are going to win this series, including Ryan Kaufman, and that is the person that's at the top of all of these people's minds on social media. I assure you, do not do any research into whether that's the case or not. Just take it as a pure fact. But now, tomorrow, we're going to see some people. And I'm already starting to see it where they go, well, the Knicks, they didn't really have control of any of these games. And San Antonio could make the argument that they've been the better team overall in this series. They've just kind of collapsed in a game or two, right? Game 2 with the Wembanyama turnover, certainly last night giving up a 29-point lead. And people tomorrow, you watch, will start to talk themselves into this series isn't over. That San Antonio had to hit rock bottom to come back up. I'm telling you, we are 4 games into this series. This is just, and I said the same thing about the Stanley Cup final yesterday. This is what the series is. The New York Knicks are, to use a phrase from Jalen Brunson, are a team that is willing to get on base any way they can. They'll hit singles. They just won't go away. They're pesky. And you'll have a San Antonio team because of their immense talent, and I do believe they are a more talented team, top to bottom, than New York is. But they are also naive. And they're also, I saw Chris Webber say this today. I think it's a good word. They were a little arrogant in the way they played in the second half. And I just think in their first NBA Finals, after none of these guys except De'Aaron Fox had any playoff experience, I just think this is how they are going to act. And we also have to define what the series being over means. I'm saying the series is over because New York is going to be the NBA champions. I'm not saying they're going to close it out on Saturday night. I'm just saying the Spurs aren't coming back. And to go the other way and say that I want people to say that they believe San Antonio is coming back with a bunch of 20-year-olds. After everything you've seen, after these 4 games, at some point, what's the, once is happenstance, twice is whatever, the phrase. I think Ian Fleming, the guy who wrote James Bond, once by accident, 2 happenstance. Anyway, how many more games do you have to see of the Knicks and Spurs to just be like, this is the way it is? This is the dynamic between these 2 teams. The New York Knicks, except for the second half of game 3, have been steady, regardless of what the scoreboard says. They have kept the pressure on. And San Antonio has routinely found ways to lose these games. And it's because of who they are, and it's not their fault. Like, there's criticism to go around for last night, no doubt about it. But you have to take a step back and you go, this team shouldn't be here. And the fact that they are speaks to who Mitch Johnson is as a head coach, who Wemby is as a star, Dylan Harper, and these players is a testament to who they are, that they are here this early. But now the idea that you got to build up scar tissue, it's starting to come into play here. And I just don't see, with the resiliency that this Knicks team has already showed, that that's suddenly going to go away for 3 consecutive games. That's not to say that the pressure won't mount. I think it's actually, if they want to be comfortable about it, everybody wants the series to get back to the Garden. I say if the Knicks should just win Saturday. The parade will still be held in New York. You don't also have to have the parade in San Antonio. You can go to New York and have the celebration, and the celebration with all the fans who have been priced out in Madison Square Garden. So it's kind of better anyway. And I'll say this, I was in the building in Ball Arena when the Nuggets won the title, and that was amazing. The parade was better. I got to be at both. The parade was better. So the Knicks should just finish it off on Saturday if they can do something about it here. But if they don't, then yeah, the pressure will start to mount a little bit. But this team, you have to have, there's a lot of pressure that has to be heaped on them. And even if it builds and let's say it gets to a game 7, I still think I would trust the Knicks in that spot more than the Spurs. Because, yeah, maybe the Spurs are playing with house money for game 5 and they're at home and all that kind of stuff. But how much pressure has to be applied to this team to see what you've seen over the past 4 games? So pressure will build on the Knicks if they don't get the job done Saturday. But it has to be a ton of pressure to shift the dynamic in this series because the Spurs they're learning. They're learning on the fly in the NBA Finals, and I just don't see that the Knicks won't be able to, maybe, I'll put it this way, take advantage of it one more time. That's all they got to do. One more time. So if you're going to say that the series isn't over, as in the series is at least going back to Madison Square Garden, okay. I don't know if I totally believe that because I don't know how the Spurs are going to bounce back from what happened last night. But okay, you want to make an argument that the series isn't over in 5, it's not Knicks in 5? Okay. You're really going to tell me that the San Antonio Spurs are going to win the next 3 games? I can't see it. So in that way, yes, the series is over and the New York Knicks will be celebrating an NBA title. Take your thoughts, both on what I just said, but also the game itself last night, which was one of the most remarkable sporting events. Forget basketball games, sporting events that I think I've ever watched. And like 2 quarters and up until about a minute left in the third, I was like, this game sucks. And then OG Anunoby hits the 3 with under a minute to go, and I go, oh no. Something's going to happen here. 719-247-1313, back after this. Cheer on Switchbacks FC and celebrate Men's Health Awareness Month. Saturday, June 13th. That's this Saturday against Sacramento Republic. The first fans through the gates will get a fun prop mustache to wear. Kickoff is at 7. Fireworks to follow. Get your tickets at switchbacksfc.com. Speaking of tickets, congratulations to Philip, who picked up a 4-pack of tickets to PBR Space Cowboys. He's seeing Tim McGraw, Chris Jansen, and the best bull riders you will find anywhere at Falcon Stadium on June 20th. Do not fret if you are not Philip. I mean, maybe you can ask Philip to take you, but another opportunity to win tickets today. So hang in there. And Philip, don't mind letting me know that got your tickets. I want to make sure you got your tickets and you're all set to go and you have a great time there hanging with Tim McGraw in the way that everybody there is going to hang with Tim McGraw. I mean, be clear on this. These are just to watch him in concert. I don't have that kind of pull for you. Sorry. Couple more things from Jared Bednar, from Joe Sakic's press conference today, where he did say Jared Bednar would remain the head coach of the Colorado Avalanche. So if that's the case, okay, Jared Bednar is the guy. What about the roster? Talked about the power play earlier and how Joe Sakic, to me, is saying Nazem Kadri, that's the dude. Look at what the power play did before Nas got back here, what he did after. That's our guy. He's going to unlock it. Dave Haxtell has some good ideas. I'm editorializing a lot on this. He didn't say all of this, but to me, he was saying Nazem Kadri, we got to help us with the power play. So expect with the full year of Nazem Kadri, the power play to be better. Okay. That's one way that you can look at this Avalanche team, because winning a President's Trophy, that's so 2026. Winning the Central Division, probably be nice if they did it, given the way that the playoff format is. But those things won't make you go, yeah, this team's different. This team, it's going to end better for this team. Winning the President's Trophy won't do that. Winning the Central Division won't do that. Heck, winning the first 2 rounds of the playoffs won't do that. Because it's no longer Dallas, right? Or just Dallas. Used to be, for the last couple of years, it was, they just can't get through Dallas. Well, now they can't get through Vegas. And Minnesota has a full year of Quinn Hughes, and they might add Dylan Larkin. Like, it's not just a bad matchup for the Colorado Avalanche. And Joe Sakic went right at the notion, because I think there's a belief that the Avs keep losing to the same kind of teams, a little bit more physical, a little bit more defensive-minded, take away time and space. Shouldn't the Avs be that way? Here's Joe Sakic.
It worked all year until 1 week. And so, I mean, our style is pretty good. We just didn't execute the way we normally do. And, that's, for whatever reason, that's what happened. But our style, our system, I mean, we can win in different ways. We can score, we can defend. We play against physical teams. We were successful all year against physical teams. I don't think the physical play is the reason we lost. It was just our lack of execution in moments of the games.
It's really frustrating to hear that, isn't it? If you believe what Joe Sakic says and you're like, 4 more games. And yeah, you would expect the Colorado Avalanche to win the Stanley Cup, but getting there, I think, would be a little bit more of a gray area, right? Whether they failed or not. not getting to the Stanley Cup final was a failure. So it's so frustrating to hear, well, it's not this, we could do this, but we just didn't play like we needed to for 4 games. It's like, he even said, for whatever reason. Well, please figure out the reason and help that. Do something about that. Here's Joe Sakic on improving the team.
For the most part, unless we're looking at trades and which we will, to see what can make us better, we're going to look at that and try and do something. But it's not really an age thing right now. We feel like it's an older team, but we've been building. We were young 10 years ago, and this group's come a long way. And now we're in that window, and this team deserves to try and win. But we're going to do whatever we can. If it's to get younger, we'll look to try and get younger, but we want to make sure this team has the right pieces to try and compete.
That's the reality. Is don't expect anything massive this offseason. And look, with the moves they made last year in season, they didn't do a whole lot. The biggest move was the Charlie Coyle trade to Columbus. And yeah, Gavin Brindley was a bright spot. And maybe Gavin Brindley, if they can't, get Jack Drury's contract figured out, maybe you feel like you have somebody in Gavin Brindley that can come in there. I don't think that that's ideal. I'd rather have Jack Drury, but the reality is the reality that they may not be able to keep Jack Drury. But you feel decent about Gavin Brindley, but they didn't make any big moves this offseason. And I don't expect them to make any big moves this offseason. Could they make a move between now and the playoffs? I certainly think that is on the table. And I think this is part of the reason why Joe Sakic is taking back over. Because I think he co-signed almost everything that Chris McFarland did, if not everything. But now he's going to be a little bit more engaged, watching the team under a more watchful eye. Not to say he wasn't paying attention, just it's his responsibility. He can suggest things to Chris McFarland the last few years. Now it's his deal. So I think he's going to want to see this team together in action, get the things he can get done. Scott Wedgwood would need a new contract. Jack Drury would need a new contract. Cale Makar needs an extension. And then as the season goes on, kind of figure things out from there. But there just aren't a lot. I guess Gavin Brindley becomes the obvious candidate. They just don't. Their days of always getting the best player in the deal are over. And I know they made more trades are going to be like Mikko Rantanen, not in terms of how seismic they are, but just the idea where you question whether the Avalanche came away with the better player. They just don't have those assets anymore, those picks and those young players that they can parlay. They gave Callum Ritchie to the Islanders to get Brock Nelson. They've given up how many of their picks? They gave up more picks to get Nazem Kadri and Nick Waugh. They just don't have those assets. So if they're going to make a move of any significance, it's going to be because Joe Sakic right now thinks that Valerian Nichushkin, Marty Necas, Brock Nelson, just to name a few, maybe can fetch them what they need, or maybe they are not what the Avalanche want anymore. But there's going to be a real giving up something to get something with any moves that Joe Sakic will make. But he should, like he said, he should explore them. I wonder about Marty Necas. Because Marty Necas, playoff Marty Necas, that happened in Carolina. Brock Nelson went through it for years. I do wonder about them. I don't want to give them away for nothing. Nor should Joe Sakic, but I think those are the players that you are kind of looking at and evaluating and going, okay, What else do we need? And would these be the guys to move out in order to get it? I think there's going to be a market for Marty Necas or, even Valerian Nichushkin. I know his stock is a little bit down, but I think a lot of teams around the league are looking at Valerian Nichushkin like, if this guy can be healthy, this guy can be a difference maker for us. You think of these Detroits and Seattles and teams like that, they may there's going to be a market. It's just whether they're offering up what Joe Sakic wants. The other thing, too, along with the power play, I think there are two things that can happen that you can evaluate during next season with the Avalanche and would go a long way to determining whether you feel better about them in the postseason. One's the power play, right? The other is goaltending. And I said it after game 4. Now it's got to be Mackenzie Blackwood. It's got to be his goal. Not saying that Jared Bednar handled it wrong. I don't think he did. But this is a new year, and you brought in Mackenzie Blackwood to be the number one. Scott Wedgwood was a little bit of found money. We have to be honest about it. It was great, but Mackenzie Blackwood is there for a reason. And if he shows some of the things he showed in game 4, then the Avs, that's another way where you could go, okay, maybe this is a little bit different because they're getting a goaltender that doesn't just make the saves that he's supposed to make, right? That's the buzz phrase. Can you go beyond that? Right now, Carolina and Vegas are begging to have, or were begging, although Brandon Busty, I think they might have that guy with Carolina now. But do the Avs have a goalie that is capable of making the saves he's not supposed to make? Or you wouldn't think. And I think that's Mackenzie Blackwood. Back after this. Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on Extra Sports 1300, 740 KVOR, the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, or you're watching the show live anywhere you scroll. Don't bother me none. Whatever way you want to consume this show, I just thank you. And I would love to hear from you. The number works for calling or texting, 719-247-1313. You can also drop a comment on the live stream if that's how you are consuming today's show. Coming up, you'll want that number handy, regardless of how you're consuming the show, because another 4-pack of tickets to PBR Space Cowboys featuring high-level bull riding and Tim McGraw. Tim McGraw is going to be performing. He's not going to be bull riding. At least I don't think so. But you have a chance to win a 4-pack of tickets coming up this hour. So be listening out for that. And the number 719-247-1313 is how you can enter to win. It's also how you can react to the 3 stories that are driving the show. All right. Sometimes I like to think that I am a little bit different than everyone else. I zag when people are zigging. Not today. Not with what happened at Madison Square Garden. That is truly story number 1.
Brunson gets it, fires up a 3. Shot no good. The tip, it's gone. It's gone. It's gone. With 1.2 remaining. Knicks take the lead. OG Anunoby, and it's 107-106.
ABC on the call. What in the world did we witness last night? A game that was an absolute snooze fest turned into the greatest comeback in the history of basketball as the New York Knicks take a 3-1 series lead. OG Anunoby with the greatest sequence in the history of Knick basketball and put it right up with Derek Jeter diving headfirst into the stands, like put it up there on the Mount Rushmore of New York sports moments. That sequence where Anunoby blocked De'Aaron Fox and came back on the following possession and got the tip in with a couple of seconds left. Just remarkable. But it was, whether you want to call it the greatest comeback ever, whether you want to call it the dumbest, most arrogant performance by a basketball team, talking about San Antonio ever, biggest choke job, whatever, you could call it either way. But we can't say that there weren't warning signs. You know, at some point, you just got to listen to people when they're telling you who they are. And this is not an indictment of the character of the San Antonio Spurs. This is about their youth. That's what this is about. And it was just the most exaggerated example of that. It was maybe the culmination of what we had seen in bits and pieces throughout the first 3 games of the series, especially games 1 and 2. But this is what this series has been. This is what these two teams have been. The San Antonio Spurs at times can overwhelm you with their talent and their athleticism, but they will also play the way their age says they should play. Right? Not recognizing the moments that went by in that second half where they could have put their foot down, right? What did Charles Barkley say? 8 3-pointers in a row that San Antonio took. They were hitting home runs throughout the first half. And in the third quarter, they just kept wanting to do that. And a couple, okay. When you get 3, 4, 5, now it's like you got to get back to what was working. And the three-pointers were born out of, once again, San Antonio attacking the rim, having Victor Wembanyama play like he's 7'4". They just completely got away from it. And Mitch Johnson, I don't think did his best to help them, allowing the Knicks to continue to come back and didn't call a timeout. But he's new to this too. And meanwhile, you have a team in the New York Knicks that is undeterred, unfazed, and is cool. And Jalen Brunson has said it 8 different times to 8 different outlets over the last almost 24 hours. They're okay with hitting singles, getting on base, moving the runner along. They just won't go away. But there was an obvious path for the San Antonio Spurs to just make the Knicks run out of time. That was on the table. As much as the Knicks weren't going away, and I give them credit for that, but San Antonio could have made it not matter. And once OG Anunoby hit that three-pointer with 53 seconds left to go in the third quarter, you knew it, I knew it, and John Tortorella, ironically, of the Vegas Golden Knights knew it. He said, you knew something stupid was going to happen. Everybody knew that the Spurs at least squandered the opportunity to put the Knicks away. And they were going to have to battle in the fourth quarter to be able to win that game. And that's when the pressure got ratcheted up. That's when the Knicks were licking their chops. That's when De'Aaron Fox lost his mind and did not dribble that ball out. A remarkable comeback or the biggest choke job in the history of basketball? The answer is yes. It's always yes. It's both. It has to be both. You can't have one without the other. It just depends on what you care more about. The Knicks side of the story or the Spurs side of the story. But the if question has been removed. It's not if the New York Knicks win the NBA Finals. They're going to win the NBA Finals. The Spurs are not coming back with everything we've seen through 4 games. They're not going to win the next 3. They could win the next 1, the next 2. They're not winning all 3. It's when. When is the question? Are the Knicks going to get it done on Saturday, or is this series going back to New York City? But they're winning this thing. Let's go here to story number, where's my audio? 2. Here's Joe Sakic, the new old general manager of the Colorado Avalanche.
He's got the confidence from the players. We reflect exit meetings. It's clear from everybody, from players, the staff, that he's the right guy. They respect him. They love playing for him. And that's a big thing. And when we look at it for this group, he's the best coach.
That is Joe Sakic today, finally meeting with the media after the Avalanche got bounced in the Western Conference Final. Jared Bednar will remain the head coach going into next year. Joe Sakic added that while they are not in a hurry to give Jared Bednar an extension because they have a draft coming up and free agency, he said, I don't think Jared Bednar's worried about it, and he shouldn't be. So they will get an extension. He will not coach this year without a contract. My curiosity is whether you're going to give him a 1-year deal on top of this, a 1-year extension, or you're going to give him a multi-year extension. I think that could speak volumes. But regardless of that, because Jared Bednar wouldn't be the first coach with multiple years left on his deal to get fired. Jared Bednar really only has one way to remain the Colorado Avalanche head coach after this upcoming season. And it is to get to the Stanley Cup final. Yeah, you got to get there. You got to get out of the West. Because we thought he was going to be on the hot seat this year, and then the Avs waved a President's Trophy in front of our faces and distracted us. And so much of the storyline was about, well, they got to win the Central. Thanks, Gary Bettman. We were so focused on they got to win the Central. They got to avoid Dallas. And they did. They won the Central. They won the President's Trophy. And those shiny objects kind of blinded us a little bit. They won't have that this year. They can win the President's Trophy again. You're not going to care. They can win the Central Division, and you'll go, so what? It has to be the Avalanche getting out of the Western Conference. Or else it will really, it was a question whether Jared Bednar is the right guy for the Avalanche right now. If they get bounced earlier than the Stanley Cup final next year, I will be saying he has to be gone. You have to go in another direction. As talented as I think Jared Bednar is, I was wondering, toying with the notion after the Vegas loss, if they have something similar happen to him next playoffs, then I'm going to be 100% in the camp that Jared Bednar should not remain the head coach of the Avalanche. That he is not the right man for where the Avalanche are right now. But Joe Sakic's going to give him that opportunity. I see why he is, but there's very little in the regular season that the Avalanche can do and Jared Bednar can do that will make you, because if they win a President's Trophy, if they win the Central, they won last year. What good did that do them? It's all about the postseason. It's all about getting out of the West. And speaking of coaches staying, this guy going to be staying for longer than Jared Bednar, at least for the moment. Here's Sean Payton for story number 3.
I've been spoiled because I had a real good experience in New Orleans with ownership and Mickey, and to go 2 for 2 with that is hard in our league. And so, I'm thankful they want me back, and we'll do everything we can to continue to keep winning.
Sean Payton getting a brand new 5-year deal. This is not a 5-year extension. He had 2 years left on his deal. Kind of like what they did with Pat Surtain. They said, this isn't what you should have. They ripped it up and gave him a new 5-year deal. So this upcoming season, year 1 of the 5-year deal. And Sean Payton absolutely deserves it. He has taken this team from mediocrity, from that mushy middle, which is the worst place to be in the NFL. You're not in a position to get a franchise quarterback, but you're not even a serious contender for the playoffs, let alone a Super Bowl. And he made some tough decisions along the way. It started with the cutting of Justin Simmons, and then it was eating the dead cap number with Russell Wilson. And then it was drafting, or not necessarily in that order, but it was also drafting Bo Nix higher than a lot of people thought he should go. But it's got the Denver Broncos to where they are now. A remarkable turnaround for an organization that was really in a bad spot. But when you give someone an extension or a new contract, you always ask that question. Is this just for what they did or what they're going to do? And there is far less. It reminds me a little bit of Jared Bednar, right? There's far less that the Denver Broncos can do to make you go, yeah, what a great year from Sean Payton. They went to the AFC Championship. A lot of people believe that if Bo Nix were healthy, they would have beaten New England. Well, there's the bar. There's where they got to get 13 wins. So what? Winning the AFC West, that's nice. If the Avalanche, or if, again, the parallels I think are there between these two teams. But if the Denver Broncos don't get to a Super Bowl, now that marks the end of the honeymoon period because there's not these exponential growth points that the Broncos can do. They're not going to double their win total this year. They probably won't even win more games than they did a year ago because they won a lot of games last year. It's hard to win more than they did last year. And I'm curious what happens then. Because the way I see this season is very much the same as the Nuggets and Avalanche seasons ended this year. You thought that they made the move that they had to do to get themselves to become a legitimate championship contender. Nuggets got the depth. Avalanche made a flurry of moves, depth being a big thing that they were trying to get. And you thought, from what you saw during the regular season, yeah, these are the right guys. This team is better than they were a year ago. And then it didn't end better. I see the Broncos season going down the same way. With Jalen Waddle, the offensive numbers are going to be better. They'll look better on Sundays. They may not win more games, but you'll feel like this Broncos team is better with the added dimension of Jalen Waddle. But also lurking in the West is Kansas City and Baltimore and Cincinnati and Buffalo and these teams that you could all argue were down from where we expect them to be. Maybe not Cincinnati, but Buffalo didn't win the division. Kansas City didn't win the division for the first time in how long? Baltimore, we know their issues. Maybe not all of them are going to bounce back this year, but all it takes is one of them. And that's to say nothing of the team that's the reigning AFC champions. So the Broncos, if you just focus on them, it's going to look better. And I think you might think, oh, for sure they're going to the Super Bowl. But make sure because this is what we didn't do with the Avalanche and the Nuggets, right? We thought the Minnesota thing was up. We didn't think San Antonio was ready for the playoffs. And then the Nuggets got bounced by Minnesota again. The Avalanche, we weren't paying attention, and for good reason, because the Vegas Golden Knights weren't a legitimate contender till about 8 games left in the regular season. But then they came on, and the Broncos or the Avalanche were hit by that freight train. But that will just be year one of Sean Payton's new deal. What he does in years 2, 3, 4, 5, I could argue are even more important. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. Coming up next, another chance for you to win tickets to see Tim McGraw at Falcon Stadium, and also more on Sean Payton as he addressed what happened with Jonathan Cooper. PBR Space Cowboys, presented by the U.S. Space Force, will bring elite team bull riding and a live concert by Grammy award-winning superstar Tim McGraw, along with Chris Jansen. He's very good, too. They're both coming to Falcon Stadium, or all of it's coming to Falcon Stadium on June 20th. I have a 4-pack of tickets to give away if you would be interested in them. Be the 13th texter to text Cowboy and your name, or Cowboys. Let's just go Cowboys. Can we just Cowboys and your name to 719-247-1313. The 13th texter to do it will get a 4-pack of tickets like Philip did earlier on in the program. Get to Sean Payton's comments on the Jonathan Cooper situation. Obviously not super chatty about the whole thing, but I think there are a couple clips worth playing. I am looking at my television here in the studio because once ESPN comes back from this commercial break, we will know who the Hart Trophy winner is. Nikita Kucherov, Connor McDavid, and Nathan MacKinnon. This is the last chance. Cale Makar did not get the Norris Trophy. Scott Wedgwood not even nominated, nor was Jared Bednar for the respective awards for theirs. So will Nathan MacKinnon win his second MVP? So I'm going to hang on here as ESPN is doing a bit of a promo before they get into this. Look, I think at some point, it's not being, and it's a very SGA argument, I do think, with Nathan MacKinnon, best player on the best team. But it's a regular season award. We can talk about Nathan MacKinnon in the playoffs in a different conversation. The fact of the matter is that Nathan MacKinnon, when he raises his level to a only Connor McDavid is better than him level, everybody else around him plays better. Think about does he deserve no credit for the career year Marty Necas had? Is that not part of why he did that? He led the league in goals. So there's a strong statistical argument. Didn't win the Art Ross, which is a pretty good indicator usually of who ends up winning the MVP. There's an argument for him. Right? And it can't be McDavid. Like, it just can't be. The Edmonton Oilers, by their standards and all of our standards, were not good this year. I mean, they're still a good hockey team, don't get me wrong. And Connor McDavid could still be the best player in the world. But come on, if Connor McDavid wins this award when the Edmonton Oilers had just short of a disastrous year, then what are we doing? To me, it is between Nathan MacKinnon and Nikita Kucherov. And if you're going to say that the Avalanche were too good, that they were too stacked at every position, well, Nikita Kucherov had the coach of the year and the goaltender of the year in the NHL. Okay, so I don't know that that's as strong of an argument as it would have been before Andrei Vasilevsky won the Vezina Trophy and John Cooper won Coach of the Year. I'm not saying that it's impossible for players or coaches from the same team to win awards in the same year. I'm just saying that why at the end of this does Tampa Bay win every major individual award possible? And then the argument is, well, the Avalanche were just too good. It just doesn't hold as much water when supposedly he has the best coach and he has the best goaltender. And of course, they're running some kind of SC featured thing. Like, nobody wanted to see this, a horse eating out of the Stanley Cup. You tease that it's going to be the Hart Trophy. Give us the Hart Trophy winner. So we'll put that on the back burner for now. If Nikita Kucherov wins, I will disagree with it, but I would get it. Connor McDavid would make no sense to me this year if he won it. But I think it should be Nathan MacKinnon. And yes, I thought that Cale Makar should be the Norris Trophy winner and Nathan MacKinnon the MVP. I think that. I didn't think Jared Bednar was the coach of the year. I don't think even a single rookie played on. But yeah, and maybe that makes me a homer, and I was accused of that last week. I watch every game that Nathan MacKinnon plays. And I know what he means to this Avalanche team. And the numbers bear out that he is the best 5-on-5 player in the league. And he led the league in goals. And he won the President's Trophy. Like, yes, if you want to boil it down, best player, best team, but I think it's more nuanced than that. And there's more of a reason. But we'll see. It just can't be McDavid. Nothing against Connor McDavid at all. Love his game. I'm just saying, not this year. Come on, not this year. So here's shifting gears in a really awkward way, admittedly, because it's the Jonathan Cooper situation. Here's Sean Payton on what may happen next with the Broncos linebacker who was arrested last week on domestic violence charges.
I think the league has done a good job of kind of coming in and really taken over that responsibility. We had a long visit with Coop, and now the process plays out, and the league obviously will be very much involved in that. We'll stay abreast, but much like you all.
And look, you could say that that's the easy way out that the Broncos can take is let the league handle it, but the league should actually handle it. And I said the way this should work is first the legal system. Nobody else should really do anything until there's some movement with the authorities, because that's what the most important thing is. This is a criminal case. Let them do their thing. Then the NFL does their thing. And then if what comes out of the legal proceedings and what the NFL decides in terms of a punishment for Jonathan Cooper, if you add those things together and the Broncos are like, this guy is not, should not remain a Denver Bronco, then that's the next step. But it should be third. And the NFL, I know we treat all of these teams like their own separate entities. They're all franchises, right? Like McDonald's has franchises. They all operate on their own. They're owned by different people. There's some nuanced differences, but ultimately they are under the McDonald's umbrella. And when McDonald's decides we're going to come, the McRib is back, guess what? Everybody gets the McRib. It's the same thing here. When it comes to levying punishment, it should be the NFL being the bad guy, if you want to say that, or being the hammer, or however you want to phrase it. It should be them. And then the Broncos can make the decision based on what the legal system does and what the NFL does and decide what Jonathan Cooper's future is. I've said it when it happened, and I'll continue to say it. I think Jonathan Cooper is on the field this fall for the Denver Broncos. I don't think that his job with the Broncos is in jeopardy. But I think the chances of him playing 17 games are in jeopardy. And it's also good that the Broncos are waiting here, because we have this is not cut and dry. There are two very different accounts of what happened that night. And one is more egregious and worse than the other. Both of them are bad. Don't get me wrong. But her account of the events, him picking her up by her neck, throwing her down onto the floor, that's more than Jonathan Cooper saying he put his neck on hers to brace her and keep her away from his phone. It's a very different account. And I know the Broncos are going to back their guy, and they probably believed whatever Jonathan Cooper told them. And that's probably the right default position for them to have. But a lot can change, I think, if she's proven to be the one that's telling the truth, or the whole truth, if you will, in this matter. But it starts with the legal system, then the NFL. Let the NFL do its job. You pay them enough. You pay Roger Goodell enough. Let him do what he's paid to do. All right. Now they're showing the stats. McKinnon the most goals, but out of the three MVP candidates, the least amount of points. And they're going to build this up. Here's Sean Payne. I thought this was, and there it is. Nikita Kucherov. Again, it couldn't have been McDavid. I'll still say Nathan McKinnon should have gotten it, but what Nikita Kucherov does for the Tampa Bay Lightning, he is their most valuable player, and his numbers were better, and apparently they knew this all along because they're running some pre-tape thing where Kucherov gets his trophy. I like when they bring the guy on and announce it to him. And now he's just in a pretty dark room, and John Cooper, who is the coach of the year. So congratulations to Tampa Bay. You get the MVP, the coach of the year, and the goaltender of the year all in the same year. But the Avalanche are too good. No one deserves any awards on that team. Any of the major awards, anyway. There's an argument for Nikita Kucherov. There absolutely is. I just think that Nathan McKinnon, and then you have to ask, what does Nathan McKinnon have to do? Get on a worse team? I guess that's the way I would put it. There was an argument for Nikita Kucherov. That's fair. But a player like Nathan McKinnon, to win only one MVP, and also take as long as he did to win his first MVP. Taylor Hall, I'm looking at you in that sham of a vote that took place a few years ago. What does Nathan McKinnon have to do to win the MVP? Because if you're saying his team is too good, then you're going to say that when he leads the league in points. So you can't say he has to lead the league in points, because you'll be like, well, he has Makar and Natchez and Landeskog. I'm legitimately wondering what Nathan McKinnon has to do to win another MVP. This is Kucherov's second. Okay, maybe he was long overdue. Again, my quarrel is not with Nikita Kucherov being the MVP. I'm just wondering out loud here what Nathan McKinnon would have to do, what a season would have to look like for Nathan McKinnon in order to win this award for a second time, which I think we can all agree his talent and his production warrant more than one MVP. Not saying the guy should win the last 8 MVPs. He probably should already have 2. But denied his second one. Lead the league in points? Well, his team's too good. His team has to be worse. That's the message that I think is being sent. Nathan McKinnon, you have to be on a worse team. And if you listen to Joe Sakic today, he has no plans in that happening anytime soon. We have to obviously see what the vote is as well here to see how tight. I would imagine it was pretty tight. Here it is. Yep, 4 votes. 4 votes. 72 first place votes for Nikita Kucherov. Oh, McDavid was second. Come on. come on, NHL voters. This is the same group of voters, by the way, that a bunch of them didn't vote for the coach of the year. So John Cooper got it over Lindy Ruff, which was wrong. McDavid finishes second. Yeah. Nathan McKinnon has to be on a worse team. The Edmonton Oilers were a disaster this year, and Connor McDavid second in the MVP voting. Kucherov got 72 first place votes. Connor McDavid got 68, and Nathan McKinnon got 52. Macklin Celebrini got 5, and some dummy gave Nick Suzuki a first place vote. Like, I'm all for having a different take on it, but if you're the only one, you need to be investigated. And who thought that Nick Suzuki should be the MVP of the league? Doesn't ultimately make the difference, but man, that person should come forward and make his case. I get the argument for Celebrini, but Sharks didn't make the playoffs. We got to value winning. I mean, Celebrini was the only reason why the Sharks weren't maybe the worst team in the league this year. So I could understand why some people voted for him. Who's the person that voted for Nick Suzuki? And to vote Connor McDavid second. Like, come on. What are we doing here? It's fine that Kucherov won. I don't have an issue with that. Wouldn't have been my vote, but thought Connor McDavid was definitely third. But he also won the Ted Lindsay, so. But yet, Cale Makar, who is widely considered the best defenseman in the world, and still would be despite not winning the Norris Trophy, but he can't win the Norris Trophy because of Werenski. Because Werenski had a better season, which is what the award's supposed to be about. Connor McDavid, okay, you want to say he's the best player in the world. He didn't have a season. They're in an awful division that they could have fell backwards into a playoff spot. This is why I don't like the rank choice. Just tell us who the MVP is. Ignorance is bliss. I don't want to know who got the second most votes. Nikita Kucherov got the most? Cool. He's the MVP. It's when they open this up that you start to go, why is McDavid second? He shouldn't be second. And somebody voted for Nick Suzuki because they don't value their vote. It's like, it's not even Ralph Nader. Like, Macklin Celebrini is the Ralph Nader of the MVP race. This is voting for like Jesse Ventura or something. One vote for Nick Suzuki. Okay. So there you go. No Vezina Trophy for Scott Wedgwood. No Jack Adams for Jared Bednar. No Norris Trophy for Cale Makar. No Hart Trophy for Nathan McKinnon. That seems wrong. I think one of them, given the season that they would have. 719-24-7, 1313, back after this. He's got ties. He's got socks. How about you give him a gift that really rocks? Like, I don't know, $5,000. Head to extrasports1300.com or kvor.com to enter this national contest for a chance at $5,000. I may have mentioned that for your top pop. This is all about Father's Day. Yes, coming up. And the contest sponsored locally by Papa Murphy's Pizza. We make it, you bake it. Speaking of winning things, congratulations to Jim, who picked up our next 4-pack of tickets to PBR Space Cowboys at Falcon Stadium. More chances for you to win tomorrow and all next week. So, as I always say, I'm not above bribing anybody to listen to me on a daily basis. I don't have that power anymore over my children, but power. I mean, bribe. They're benefiting from it. But anyway, congratulations to Jim. More chances to win tomorrow. Big, unless you're really into South Korea and Czechia in the World Cup, the main event of the evening is a pivotal Game 5 between Vegas and Carolina. And goaltender news, Brandon Bussey's going to get the start again. And not only is Brandon Bussey going to get the start again for Carolina, Frederik Andersen scratched again. So I said yesterday that I didn't believe that Rod Brind'Amour was telling the whole story here. I thought he was leaving something out because he said that Frederik Andersen needed a day off. That's what he said. And he said, I think he said this morning, everybody's available. And Frederik Andersen is once again a scratch. So I was right. Rod Brind'Amour telling half-truths here. Now, either way, it's a serious thing. I don't want, I'm not trying to be glib about this because either Frederik Andersen needs mentally another night off because of what he's been dealing with Claude Lemieux being his agent and the Stanley Cup final, and maybe mentally it's affecting him, which is very serious, and you want him to make sure he's mentally right, or he was more injured in Game 3 than Rod Brind'Amour would like to lead on. And I go back to Barbashev basically colliding with Frederik Andersen's head. I think that there's more. Whatever's going on with Freddie Andersen is worse than Rod Brind'Amour is leading on. I'm not accusing him of anything nefarious. All hockey coaches speak in half-truths and don't want to tell you anything in terms of player availability. I get that. I'm not saying Rod Brind'Amour has to set the gold standard for breaking this cycle, but clearly there's something bigger going on with Frederik Andersen. And I hope whether it's mentally or physically that he gets right because he's been a tremendous goaltender, and Carolina is only here, not only here, but a big reason why they're here is because of him. With that being said, if he were healthy, this is still the right call. Putting Brandon Bussey in the game the other night gave Carolina juice. He kept them in the game, allowed them to come back. And in Game 4, maybe you look overall and say it wasn't an amazing performance, but he made key saves, big saves, saves that with the way Freddie Andersen has played in this series, you weren't sure whether Andersen was capable of making those saves. So this is the spark. This is the change that Carolina has made, and it has benefited them for the last 2 games. And we'll see if it does the same thing tonight. And there is a real possibility, and I said this yesterday, a real possibility that Frederik Andersen will never get the net back. And it's even closer to a reality with the news tonight. Because if Carolina wins, you're going to go back to Freddie Anderson with the chance to win the Stanley Cup. And if you lose tonight, I mean, it would really have to be on Bussy. I think it's his net until he gives it up. So this is the right call. It's just now, is Rob Brindamore being kind of forced into it because of circumstances with Freddie Anderson? Or I suppose there's a third thing where he doesn't, he's protecting Anderson a little bit by making him a scratch rather than putting him on the bench. Thus, us saying Freddie Anderson has been benched. I think it could be that as well. But it's the right call from Carolina for Carolina as they look to take a 3-2 series lead in a series that has been spectacular. I don't want it to end. I didn't want this show to end, but it has ended. Appreciate you. We'll talk tomorrow.